Student accommodation crisis is the leading story here on the SABC News channel. Let's continue then to put focus on that issue. University of Johannesburg Student Representatives Council says that the student housing issues are a national issue that needs collaborative action. Now, this comes as the challenge of finding a safe, affordable place to live has become a stark reality for many South African students as the 2025 academic year kicks off. In recent weeks, protests have erupted over the chronic shortage of student accommodation on campuses across the country. SABC News senior reporter Hasina Gori was at the UJ Auckland Park campus.
2025 academic year kicks off over here at the University of Johannesburg this morning at their Auckland Park campus to get a sense of what the student accommodation situation is like here on these specific campuses. This comes as the perennial issue of student housing is back in the spotlight. We saw NSFAS being put on the scrutiny for non-payment to some of the accommodation service providers. This is a move to a new system and owing the Private Housing Student Accommodation Association almost 44,000 rand, leaving 7,000 students uncertain of where they would have a space to stay when they're on campus. This comes after that hurdle and challenge of many students just to get registered into campus, fighting for just that 200,000 spaces for first-year student after the historic record-breaking bachelor's pass that we saw from the class of 2024, but also the cap that NSFAS put on their accommodation also put an added burden on many students as they were unable to afford even the deficit amounts, leaving them having to find alternative accommodations that were not always the safest. I want to bring in the SRC president here at UJ, Sisekelo. Thank you so much for speaking to us. I want to just start with getting a sense from you what the situation around accommodation is like for students at the various UJ campuses, following all the reports we've heard of these issues around the country.
Thank you for having me. Look, accommodation, broadly speaking, is quite a national issue at this point. And I think if you would follow recent reports, you would see that even in other institutions, SRC, they're actually striking about accommodation. So it is a national thing. And I think it requires intervention from much higher structures like DHET, Departments of Higher Education and Training. But nevertheless, UJ, we did have those issues as well. And as you would know, as it is with all institutions, that the number that we have of students registered for academics far exceeds the capacity we have to go them on campus. Hence then we have a larger number of our students getting accommodation from off-campus residences, that's your privately owned ones. And I mean, that's an issue as well, because we've heard the reports of students who are being charged exorbitant fees outside of campus. Other ones are being harassed. I mean, if you've read as well, you would know. So I mean, it is a big issue. It is a big issue, and again, it requires a sit down with much higher structures rather than just the SRC.
As the SRC, what are some of the systems that there is in place from your side for students that might find themselves with nowhere to stay, coming into first year of campus and thinking that NSFAS has accredited their accommodation, and now they find that they have nowhere to stay?
Okay. When it comes to NSFAS, we've looked at it from a different perspective. Look, we understand that they tend to accommodate students in terms of allowances quite later into the year, around end of March. So what we've done is we've spoken to finance, and then we've arranged that they get the accommodation and the allowances through UJ Finance in the interim using 2024 rates, while we then wait for them to have a final resolution on their side as NSFAS. But again, it is an issue, and it is a genuine outcry to say they must accredit the students, rather approve them early or in time, so that they get their accommodation in time, they get registered in time as well.
We've also heard reports from other campuses and institutions of students having to either sleep in campus libraries or in lecture halls. Is this the situation we're seeing here on these campuses that you are currently at?
So at UJ, what we try to do as the SRC, we do find ways to accommodate them off campus. You know, we know the service providers off campus, so we tend to then fight on our own personal capacities to have them accommodated as it stands. And again, I think it should be our battle this year as the SRC, so that the incoming ones don't have to go through the exact same thing. In fact, in coming times, there should be social beds all around the universities for students who come from far and really don't have a place to stay at the time. So then, again, it is a battle that we should win this year for incoming SRCs and the incoming generations as well.